Hello, everybody. Welcome to Trek on Tuesday. That's one of my favorite things I get to say each week. And one of my other favorite things I get to say when I kick off this show is Xavier is tuned in. Shout out to Pack 817. We're so glad to have everybody who is joining the show today, whether you're a longtime viewer like Xavier or you're a first-time viewer. We've got something kind of exciting today. It's an old-fashioned Trek story. This is what initially brought us together back in the day. All those years ago, Aaron.
Yes, this is how Trek at, it was called Trek at 2. Now Trek on Tuesday began by presenting to you guys a story from Scout Life magazine. That's what we're going to do today.
Yes.
A cool topic today. We've got a story from a troop that went to a pretty iconic, not as long-term like an iconic scouting destination as, say, Philmont Scout Ranch. But I think in terms of modern scouts, like in the last, 7 or 8 years, kind of cool. It's about one of the coolest places you can go.
Absolutely. And this place, let me just give you a hint where we're talking about today, what the location is, if you haven't read the description. This is where the summit is taking place this
is where the Jamboree is taking place this summer.
Yeah, Jamboree is going to be, well, I spoiled it, at the summit this summer. I wanted to make sure I said that at the top of the show to let you know. I think that you can still register for Jamboree.
Yep. You absolutely can.
If you're looking for the exact amount of time until Jamboree kicks off, it's 146 days, 22 hours, 45 minutes, and 41 seconds.
Not that we're counting, but yes. Yeah, as an organization, we're pretty excited about the Jamboree this summer. And, the Jamboree experience is a great sample of the kind of things you can do at the summit, Gina. And another great example of the kind of things you can do at the summit was our story. Is this from the February issue of Scout Life or March? What are we at here?
I believe it's the March issue.
It's the March issue of Scout Life magazine. You're right. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It wouldn't be Jan Feb.
Right. This isn't a new story. This is from the magazine that probably just hit your inbox, or maybe you've been reading it for a week on the app. But it's a wonderful story about scouts doing what you do at the summit, which is a little bit of everything. You can read the story by heading to the link at the bottom of your screen. We had the opportunity to do like a staff kind of promoting, staff positions available at different high adventure bases last week. And that was really cool. If you haven't watched it, scroll down this page. You can watch it and see about different jobs you can do if you're, scout age, even older scouts, and definitely young adults and even retirees, I learned. But the point here is it made it really clear to me how distinct the high adventure bases are, and how if you can think of an activity, you can identify a high adventure base where you can get involved in that activity. Really, every single thing that came up, it was you got to go there, got to go there. Mm-hmm. But it made it really clear to me, if you're really into fishing, if you're really into mountain bikes, if you're really into whitewater rafting, there's a very obvious choice for you in the high adventure base realm.
There is indeed, Gina, and that choice is
the
Summit Bechtel Reserve, obviously in West Virginia. This is a nice story from Scout Life magazine, written by our coworker Michael Freeman. Like Gina said, it's in the March issue. You guys can read it through the app. You can read it in the print magazine, or you can just listen to us read it to you right now.
Yeah, let's go. So backpacking, whitewater rafting, ziplining, you can do it all at the summit, just like we said. Daniel Willis knew he wouldn't stay dry through his troops' backpacking trek last July. The scouts were at the Summit Bechtel Reserve for the weekend's Pack and Paddle experience, which includes a day of whitewater rafting along the New River. However, the guys of Troop 41 from Sugar Grove, Illinois, were already drenched before they got to the river. It rained on them several hours on the second day on the trail. After the storm stopped, the air remained calm and unbearably humid. Sometimes it felt like I was breathing more water than oxygen, says Daniel, a 17-year-old life scout. That made paddling through the rapids so much more refreshing and enjoyable. But that wasn't the only fun they experienced in the lush hills of West Virginia. I remember that about the summit. At any given moment, it could be raining.
Yeah.
And then at any given moment, it could stop and be sunny.
Yep. It's one of those areas where it seems like the humidity kind of builds and builds, and there's that afternoon rain shower that sometimes may only last 10 or 15 minutes, sometimes maybe a little bit longer. And then usually it's like it gets it out of its system. And after that, we're usually okay after that. And I do want to point out real quick, Michael wrote the Pack and Paddle experience the cool thing about the summit, you mentioned a second ago, all the different things you can do. When you sign up to go to the summit, you can you choose your own adventure. You can literally choose what you want to do. These guys chose the pack and paddle experience, taking advantage of the whitewater rafting and the backpacking. Lots of other stuff that we'll get to here in a little bit, other things you can do at the summit. There you see some examples there. The summit is one of the BSA's 4 national high adventure bases, and it guides scouts through several different experiences. The New River experience is a paddling journey on inflatable kayaks. You can use treks riding bicycles or all-terrain vehicles with the Polaris ATV experience. We've had some friends from Polaris on this show before talk about what they do. Or you can stay at the summit's developed property and fun with everything there is there: skateboarding, shooting sports, zip lining, and climbing, to name a few. We do a single high adventure trip per year, and this time we chose the summit, says Alexander Davis, 14 years old. He's a Star Scout. The pack and paddle sounded like fun. With this experience, the guys would travel more than 40 miles in the backcountry, trekking to beautiful overlooks and exploring forgotten mining towns, with an entire day devoted to whitewater rafting. To get ready, they went on weekly practice hikes for 5 months at home and reviewed what gear to bring with them. After a 10-hour drive, they arrived in West Virginia up for the challenge. They were ready to go, Gina, once they got there.
I want to call out that ATV trek. It is super popular. You can see Rob in the comments says he wants to do an ATV trek. You can't do those just anywhere. Now, there are a lot of scout camps around the country where you can take advantage of them, but I don't think that there's anything quite like ATVs at the summit. It's, a program that a lot of folks go out there specifically for. So that's one of the kind of packages you can choose if you head out there.
Yeah, the ATV scouting program, you can't just go out and ride ATVs as a part of scouting just on your own. It needs to be at an authorized location under authorized supervision. Like Gina said, a lot of local council camps. I do think the summit is probably, once again, kind of the pinnacle of that, right?
Definitely. But that's not all. There's also obviously world-class hiking. We talked about whitewater rafting, more than we're even going to mention in this story, but we're going to talk about a few other activities. Starting out, the guys scaled some switchbacks, hiking along the easy grassy paths. The hiking didn't seem as bad as it was going to be, says Star Scout Lucas Zudermeister, 14. Then the trails got steeper and slipperier, slowing the group down. A scout is helpful. When your group faces a challenge, look out for each other. It was nice to see the teamwork develop this day, says Life Scout Nate Diaz, who's 17. One of the scouts was struggling, and several other scouts were able to take some weight out of his backpack and help him out. That day ended at a campsite by the New River, where they went swimming and admired the sights. The views you see at the summit are absolutely amazing, says Nicholas Collins, 16, a Life Scout. Everything is green and picturesque. It's like a postcard. The next day, they kept their eyes on the trail as it began to rain. The group pulled out their rain gear and trudged to Thurmond, a ghost town. Towns that were once busy with people and are now practically deserted are called ghost towns. Because of coal mining, a few hundred people lived in Thurmond in the early 1900s. At last count, only 5 people still call it home. Learning about local history added to the trip. The scouts checked out old mining equipment and railroad tracks. You've heard the New River mentioned a few times, the river that runs through the summit. You may be thinking, isn't there a national park that has that name in it? Yes. Just to tell you what kind of, beauty is at the summit. It's right next door to New River Gorge, which I believe, at least last time I checked, is the newest national park.
Yeah, certainly, if not the newest, certainly one of the most recent ones, right? And we're lucky to have a very good relationship with them. I just want to point out real quick, I've always loved the term ghost towns. I can remember as a child when my parents telling me that there was a ghost town.
You thought,
of course, immediately you think there's ghosts. The real story is almost even more interesting. 5 people live in Thurmond.
Yeah, now I want to know a little bit more about who are those 5 people.
Yeah, if you're from Thurmond watching right now, let us know.
Yes.
Shout out in the comments and tell us what it's like.
I think at least 1/5 of the United States tunes in, so
probably right. Odds are, yes. So in addition to the backpacking, as we said, another thing that this troop did was whitewater rafting. The trek had many highlights, but most of the guys' favorite came on the New River. The best day was the whitewater rafting, Nate says. Many of us had never been and did not know what to expect. The troop split into 3 groups, riding 3 inflatable rafts, each with a guide who navigated them through exciting rapids. As long as you don't mind getting wet, it's a lot of fun, says Eagle Scout Logan Coons. In larger rapids, the rafts crashed through the big waves and bounced off rocks. It was an adrenaline rush. The guys also tried some fun whitewater techniques like surfing. To do this, they rowed against the current into a rapid. Once they were in position, they paddled back and forth, riding the waves while staying in the same spot, just like a surfer. It was probably the most fun I've ever had on a scout trip, Daniel says. The whitewater rafting was just at the right time to give us a very welcome break. Gina, have you ever been rafting, whitewater rafting?
No, I haven't. I know it's world class at the Summit, but I have a question for you, and I don't know if you'll know the answer, but are these kayaks, there's a picture of scouts in kayaks as well as the rafts. Are those inflatable too?
Yeah, there are. I believe that's correct. There are inflatable kayaks. When I went whitewater rafting, I went on the big, like 6 or 7 person raft, but it looks like these guys used much smaller. They are inflatable kayaks. Now they're very, very, very heavy duty. They're not at all like, a beach toy or something like that you would float in your pool.
Right.
But yeah,
I had no idea they use the inflatable kind at the Summit. I think the inflatable kind is genius. Now it makes me think, wow, they have like a little more durability than I thought. I need to look and see what kind the Summit uses.
I think they're pretty darn durable. I've whitewater rafted in the big giant one, which is pretty fun and easy because there's 6 other people in there with you. Yes. The doing it in the smaller single person kayak, I think would make me a little bit nervous because you're on your own. There's nobody responsible except for you. You don't have a teammate paddling to help you out.
Right. That's kind of what you're talking about and how I've typically seen the larger, rapids are taken. I don't want to speak to the kayaking. I don't know exactly what part of the new river you go down on the kayaks. It might not be these larger rapids. I just saw a picture at the Summit.
I think you could go through some pretty big rapids in those inflatable kayaks. Yeah, I think you have to be a decent paddler, which I probably am not.
No, I did do that at Broken Bow. I went over some rapids in like down there, is it called Beaver's Bend? Maybe is and there's some like decent little rapids. It's a small stretch of them, but it was hard, and my kayak kept getting stuck. I mean,
I've done that before. Very much training, so. Very tricky. Yes, I've flipped over probably on right on that same river in probably what would be called like a class 1 rapid, which is basically the most mildest, easiest kind. And it flipped me upside down faster than I knew what to do. So yeah, it's tricky. It takes some practice, I think.
April says that their Jamboree troop is planning to do this at the Jamboree this summer. April, are you talking about whitewater rafting or ATVs? Let us know. I'm very excited to find out. There's something else that is very unique to the Summit. I'm so happy to say I've gotten to take part in this activity there. We're talking zip line.
I'm jealous. I didn't get to do the zip line when I was there, Gina.
I hope that you'll get to at some point. I mean, the zip line there is it's so long that now you go through all the feelings. You're like, oh my gosh. And then it's going on for so long. You're like,
you kind of get used to it.
I've been up here my whole life. I'm ready to come down. Like you go through it all.
Yep. I'm the next time I go up there, I'm doing it for sure.
Right. The scouts finished their journey at the Summit's Big Zip, a set of zip lines that can reach speeds of 50 miles per hour. Riding the Big Zip topped off a fun week, and for some in the troop, it marked the grand scale of adventures in scouting. By completing the trek, some of Troop 41 scouts, like Logan, had completed adventures at all 4 National High Adventure bases. There's a badge for that. It's called the Grand Slam of National High Adventure Award. Scouts who go to 3 high adventure bases can earn the Triple Crown of National High Adventure Base, a National High Adventure Award. Each base offers something different in both challenges and rewards. The trip was pretty intense, Logan says. It was more physically taxing than mentally taxing, so I was able to focus on enjoying it. At the end of each day, the scouts could unwind in camp and play a game of cornhole while taking in their surroundings. When we were up on the top of the mountains, it really brought you to a strong realization of where exactly we were and that we hiked throughout these mountains. Nate says, we all made it. Sounds like a good trip.
It sounds like an excellent trip, as I think any trip to the Summit would be. There's a good sort of...
Yeah. We didn't even talk about skateboarding or rock climbing.
Yeah, speaking of going through all the emotions, right? All the different things you can do right there. Very, very cool. So this is, like we said, this is a story about a troop that did this on an individual trip. April commented below that they're taking a contingent, I think, from their council to go to the Jamboree this summer. So, you can visit the Summit, you can visit the Jamboree, you can just go as a part of any high adventure trek. I also want to just note a third way you can attend the Jamboree for anyone who's interested, and that is family adventure camp. You know, we've had some folks on here before talk about all the things you can do at family adventure camp. It pretty much is what it says it is. You can bring the whole family. You can go, you know, I think the minimum age at the Summit is 13 and up by the time you get there, maybe even 14. Family adventure camp has activities appropriate for even younger kids than that. So if you've got Cub Scouts in the family, consider going to the Summit for family adventure camp. It'd be kind of a nice little sampler platter of all the things you can do at the Summit, tailored for your family. So it's not tailored for a Scouts or adventuring crew or a Sea Scout ship high adventure trip. It's tailored for a family. You see the link down there. Thank you behind the scenes, Brian, for throwing that up there. I encourage everybody to check that out. And can I point out one more thing, Gina?
Absolutely.
Michael wrote about the Grand Slam. I've been around long enough to remember when it was the Triple Crown of high adventure.
That was the most you could do.
That was all you could do. Now
we hadn't even discovered parts of the United States yet.
That's exactly right. We had to come up with a different baseball analogy. You know, the Triple Crown. You obviously know. I mean, I don't have to tell you what that term means. Someone who leads the league in batting average, home runs, and RBIs is a Triple Crown winner. I think Grand Slam is actually a better analogy. We all know what that means. That's when you hit a home run, 4 different people score. That exactly. I think that analogy works better than the Triple Crown Award. So it was probably meant to be for us to add that 4th high adventure base, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like that there's a reason there's 4, not 5. We were meant to be compared to baseball. You know, very American sport, very American pastime, scouting.
That's exactly right. Yes. Yeah. And saying what, of course, I'm sure most folks know, the other 3 high adventure bases, Philmont in New Mexico, known primarily for its backpacking, but they do offer a lot of other cool activities as well. Horseback riding, huge. Yes. They do have rock climbing up there. Northern Tier. Ever been to Northern Tier, Gina?
I've never been to the Northern Tier. No, I know you have.
I went to Northern Tier in the winter one year. Whew. Chilly, but a lot of fun. Really, really gorgeous. Way up north in the Boundary Waters. Known mostly, I think, for its summertime canoeing, but they also have a really good winter program there.
So you have a Triple Crown?
You know, believe it or not, I've never been to Philmont. What are the chances? I've been to all 3 except Philmont. I've been to Sea Base. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't have a Grand Slam. I'm sorry. Yes, I have a Triple Crown of Sea Base, Northern Tier, and Summit. But I still need to get that Philmont trip in.
I'd like to go to Philmont. So, boss, if you're watching, we're willing to go. Send us.
Yeah, we'll do videos from there. We'll write stories.
Oh, we'll be so good.
It'll pay for itself. Yes,
good.
Exactly.
We never ask for anything.
That's exactly right.
But the Summit, one more reminder before we let everybody go. As Aaron said, Family Adventure Camp is a great way to get your entire family out to the Summit. I see a lot of Scouts who will be going with their unit, or maybe their parents are on the fence about sending them with their unit. And what pushes it over the edge is they're like, you know what? We can bring the whole family. You can go out there with the unit, do, you know, the paddle and whatever, pack and paddle. What is it? I gotta look back.
Pack and paddle, yeah.
Pack and paddle package. We're just gonna kind of chill at Family Adventure Camp. There's fun for the old family. So we see a lot of that. And then also, again, Jamboree is happening at the Summit this summer. I'm glad April commented because it makes me think to say, just because maybe your unit is not going does not mean that there are not other ways to build a contingent and go. Mm-hmm. Your council could have a contingent. You could put together a group from other units, you know. Yep. Maybe you're in Scouts BSA, but there's some venturers who want to go. And then I also believe that there is a way, if you head to, let me find this URL for you, jamboree.scouting.org, you can team up with contingents that need another person. So check that out.
Exactly. The Summit, definitely, like we said, one of the pinnacles of the scouting experience. So much stuff to do there. A lot of different options, different programs they offer, going with your own family, going for a jamboree, going just on a troop high adventure trip. Get out there, everybody. It's fun.
Yeah, go see it for sure. It beats, we've all been indoors a lot for the last 3 years. So yeah, go on out there.
Get out to the Summit in West Virginia. Have a good time. Can we read Jared's joke right there that Jared just posted? It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Jared, keeping with the joke, we had a lot of good jokes last week. Jared says he dreamt of rafting through an orange river, but it was just a fantasy. Fanta's an orange drink, fantasy. I like it, Jared. I appreciate it.
That's really good.
I appreciate it very much. Rob says he thinks they're going out to Philmont this summer.
I guess he's inviting us.
Yeah, I guess so. Rob will be there. Let us know when and where.
Sounds good. Yeah, just which airport we show up. I'll bring my ID. I'll be good.
Just let us know. Thank you all for watching today. Appreciate it very much. Hope you enjoyed this virtual trek to the Summit Bechtel Reserve. We'll be back with another episode of Trek on Tuesday next week.
All right. See you next time.
Bye, everybody.